Welcome to Getchyapulls, number 67. It's Muji,
It's Dan.
and we got a hell of a show.
Yeah, this is a big one, folks.
We got a jam-packed one. Todd's not here,
Batten down the hatches. No, Todd.
but it might be good, because we may not have time. If he was here, he might get cut out. But I doubt that. That'd be a real dickhead move, but...
Sorry, Todd, we had to cut you.
Yes. But if that was... If he was here, then this would be like 2 hours, so... Whatever. Lots of stuff to talk about this week. All kinds of announcements. Most of them happened on Wednesday night. Wednesday night, debut Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hey, yo.
We watched it, and we liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. If you listen to the Midnight Black Mass and remember, also on pottyhumor.com, if you remember the old Muji movie minute from the old format of the show, I'd rate things. I'd give it like an 80%. I thought it was cool, but there's some stuff about it that I didn't like. I think if you listen to the show, you can guess. Dan probably liked it more.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're right.
Yes.
I did. I didn't disagree. There were some very Joss Whedon signature dialogue duds. But, as far as, like, what they were trying to do and tie it in with the movies, I think they just hit a home run with that and setting its place to where they made the Marvel movie characters larger than life and like a very special thing in that universe, and that I'm really excited for what it's got the potential to be. I don't think
Yeah.
it achieved all that it could be in that first episode by any means, but I loved it.
I thought it was cool. I liked it. I thought it was an exciting pilot. Let's just say if I didn't read comics and the fact I've cut down on my TV, I'm not sure that I would keep watching it. So I don't know if people that aren't comic fans, like how many of them are going to keep watching it. Got a really good number. Had 11.9 million for the first week, which is great. That is a huge number. I think it was number 2 for the night. Got beat by The Voice. So
And in one night,
taste and ratings equal the same thing, but
right.
but also just also debuts of shows. We'll see where it settles in at. Or generally bigger, not always. It's the crazy shows that become phenomenons like Walking Dead. That by the end of the season, you have 3 times the people. To put it in perspective, this is their biggest debut for a show since the show V, which had more people watch it its first week. If you know what that is, you probably don't, because it only went a season and a half and got canceled. So, just to keep everybody from going nuts. But
Well, it didn't keep the other networks from going nuts.
No.
Because both Fox and NBC, in response to the success of the very first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., immediately announced new comic television projects.
I think they were more in the attempt to steal the thunder. I mean, they were obviously greenlit before the ratings came out. They got announced, actually, the first one by Fox was announced as S.H.I.E.L.D. was on the air during the airing of it. But yeah, DC, man, going crazy on the comic properties, dealing them out. We have on Fox a ordered to pilot, so guaranteed to air Commissioner Gordan series. Right now, the thought is it's going to be titled Gotham. That's not for sure, but that's what they're thinking. And yeah, the plan would be that it'll be coming on fall 2014. So that's awesome. It's on Fox, so it's not going to be the Gotham Central that we'd all dreamed of, unless this is one of the shows that maybe, as everyone hopes the networks kind of steps it up and kind of rival the type of content that cable providers have been putting out, and just takes it basically from being rated PG, PG to PG-13, or rated R is what you would hope for a show about Gotham City, because Gotham City is not a fun place.
No, it is not. Well, it's interesting that you are seeing more networks do that, or at least attempt it. I don't know that they're succeeding, but certainly before Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, and that type of world, you definitely wouldn't have saw what you saw in Hannibal, for example, on NBC on television.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are, like, getting closer. I mean, Hannibal is still the NBC show of a show. Like, I liked Hannibal quite a bit, and it's a show, though, that always in the back of your mind, I feel like on those, I want to get to a point where you don't think, man, I like this. Man, it would really be great if it was on Showtime or HBO. And Hannibal, I really liked. But there were times I was like, man, imagine how far they could take this if it was on NBC and they didn't have to try to sell you Coca Cola in between, the people getting murdered. So, that's a thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot better than it would have been a few years ago. What's crazy is like, they kind of started, man. If you look at back, like CSI and stuff like that was on before any of these crazy network shows, and it was kind of pushing the envelope, and then they only kind of pushed so far and then stopped. And now, AMC and FX and Spike TV and, other networks of like that now are just, I mean, they're all just a step away from like HBO. Basically, anything but, showing like boobs and stuff like you can get away with on any of those channels now. As much cussing as you want, so it's even some boobs. Just
minimal boobs.
Minimal.
You get some
minimal
side
boobs.
boob on FX. You usually don't ever get any nipples.
Yeah, minimal boobs. But yeah, I mean, they're basically, if you can make things like almost X-rated on HBO and win an Emmy for it, but you can only make them like a rated, like a light R on the networks and still get away with it because they still have some commercials. But yeah, hopefully they go in that direction with that show for sure. And then just a day later, NBC announced that they've are in development, so it's not ordered yet, so it's not a guarantee, but in development a Constantine series, which makes me think that Guillermo del Toro movie probably won't happen. But I mean, he always announces like 20 projects at a time and then ends up doing one of them.
Well, I heard something interesting about the Constantine thing. It's not just I'm trying to think of how they worded it, but it's not a direct order, but it's with penalty is what it's called. So if they don't pick it up, NBC still has to pay them a shitload of money. Apparently,
I think they have to pay them some. Yeah, it's.
So they appear to be confident in it, whatever it is. But it is David S. Goyer and Daniel what's his futz. That is the Dark Knight trilogy writing team. So
yeah, I mean specifically Goyer. Yeah, you don't get a big part of the writing team. Nolan's not involved, but yeah, it's a Goyer project, which is cool. It seems like he's their go-to guy, which is awesome. I prefer him to, even though I've liked Arrow, to the Arrow creative team. The only movie they wrote was Green Lantern, and Goyer wrote the Batman movies and Superman, so it's kind of not a level playing field on who gets to play, who you're getting, who your tools are, but still. But yeah, that's exciting. And what's crazy is think about all these shows aren't guaranteed to be on. The Flash is not a guaranteed show. Constantine's not guaranteed, but they're in development. They're obviously pushing really hard for these to be on. It's crazy, man, that when Smallville ended, there were no shows about comic books on TV. And now just a couple years later, with 2 Marvel shows, and now a potential 4 coming from DC, we're going to have 6 shows about comic book characters on TV. And
2 Marvel shows?
Well, the Peggy Carter development.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a possibility of there being 6 comic shows on come this time next year, which is crazy, which will be exciting. Which, hopefully it doesn't oversaturate like anything else. You don't want people to get tired of it. I mean, some of the stuff concerns me, and some of it doesn't. I mean, I can see where DC's going more for I guess you could put it all on one network, and having it on different networks probably eliminates the chance of it kind of being in the same universe. Though, I mean, the Gordan show is obviously set in the past. It seems like they're probably just not going to have anything to do with the movies, which, we'll see. I mean, it's, maybe not copying Marvel might be the thing to do. I mean, in that respect, it's almost like reading comics, as much as everybody loves for everything to fit together and for stories to fit together and feel the same. I mean, you never hear more griping than when there's events that are in all the books. People are like, no, I don't want this X-Men book to fuck with Wolverine the X-Men. I want it to be this. Or, I'm so happy Daredevil is just its own book. So it seems like the books people enjoy the most are the ones that aren't actually within that. So maybe taking that approach of, by doing all these, we can tell all the stories we want. Can't have this. Maybe they'll have little things. I mean, obviously the stuff in the CW is going to go together, but maybe even in the other shows. I mean, I don't, we wouldn't take it outside the realm of possibility.
No, I wouldn't, especially with
but
what they're doing.
It's certainly
keep
not
it minimal.
Yeah,
I think it'd be better.
it's certainly not going to be as connected as the Marvel stuff is. Where, yeah, I mean, you're basically getting the B characters from the movies, on TV every week. So it's really exciting though. Tons of stuff that could be cool. Really pumped for the Gotham show. I mean, even if it's not, like I said, best case scenario is that it's just Gotham Central Light. It's the Fox version. Worst case scenario is that it's just a procedural with Gordan as the detective, like that Sherlock show is, or any of those shows, like a CSI or something. Which also, getting back to S.H.I.E.L.D., is one of my only concerns about it is just thinking about over the course of like 20 episodes, I hope it just doesn't become like, I hope it's probably will be, and it's just one episode. I hope it's like more connected. I'm sure they'll have like a big story going on in the background, but I hope it just doesn't turn into like a case of the week. I hope that there's a lot of episodes that, you need, like watching just like the good shows, like watching a Breaking Bad or a Walking Dead or something where you need to watch every episode to like enjoy it. Like I don't want to
don't even like Arrow. Like Arrow's like its shit ran. They had certainly a freak of the week, but it was even more so than Smallville.
Oh, way more than Smallville. Smallville for seasons. I mean, Smallville basically did. You would start out the season ending last season's like big thing, and then you would generally have like 5 or 6 freak of the week episodes. A little bit more story, 5 or 6 more than the end of it. Yeah,
Arrow. I mean, they kept the story going the entire time. There's always some kind of crazy like reveal or something else that's played out over time. So they even Arrow, who's not considered on the level creatively of some of those more critically acclaimed shows, has been able to do that. So S.H.I.E.L.D's going to have to do that to keep up. That they just have to. I think.
Well, yeah, you hope. You hope that they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But. Yeah, but that's cool, exciting for TV stuff. Like I said, a bunch of people watched S.H.I.E.L.D. Said, thought it was good. It wasn't the best pilot ever, but some of the best shows of all time had shitty... Like, it wasn't a shitty pilot. I enjoyed it. Like, after I watched it, I was like, this is cool. But, like I said, there were just things I saw. I'm not too crazy about some of the cast members. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, some of them have barely been in anything, so this is some of their second to third screen time they've ever got, so... And there have been really great shows that had pilots that weren't any good at all. And this one was good. So, not really worried about it. Just, what's the word for it? Just cautiously optimistic is what I would say.
There you go.
I wasn't just like, this is going to be the best ever. I'm cautiously optimistic. Which also heard some crazy things off the list. Quick tangent. But heard Joss Whedon on Avengers, which I really liked. But I argued, which I also thought, though, it was pretty standard. I mean, it was a pretty standard, like, you could see everything that was coming. A lot of the things were kind of, like, cheap, like, oh, they're going to get an argument here because they just have to do something. Read a crazy interview with Whedon where he basically...
Cats fighting outside.
Yeah, it's nice. Where he basically said all that stuff himself, and he said that he hopes Avengers 2 is 10 times better. He says going back and watching Avengers, he's proud of it, and it got things set up, but... He said that he in no way thinks it was like a great movie. It was just did what it needed to do. And
well, you had to be careful there.
So hopefully the second one's going to be...
It's kind of like like booking a main event wrestling match. You don't need to overbook it when it's going to sell itself like that, and you just got to make sure to not fuck it up, really, the first time out. When you got all those characters meeting each other for the first time, I mean, it's a pretty expected thing of what people want to see, and probably overcomplicating it with going too far into the story realm when you got that many moving parts. It's probably the smart move, and now that they've got it set up, really they can dig in with the second one, so that's cool to hear. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, unless you do it well. I mean, if you could fuck it up, but then if you didn't fuck it up, then you could make something that's amazing. So hopefully the second one will do that also. He said his whole thing for doing the second one is he just doesn't want to make something that pleases the masses. He wants to make something that's like a really great movie. So we'll see. It's exciting. Pumped up. 2 years from now. Damn it.
Yeah, well, we got plenty to get us there. Got Thor coming up. Got Captain America.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, out of the movies and TV realm, onto the books, Marvel announced Phase Deuce starting later this year. funny is kind of funny to me. As I mean, I don't say I have a favorite company out of comic stuff because honestly, all my favorite books are kind of spread around. But as most comic people, the fans of just hating DC, um, really hated just Zero Year when they announced it because they're like, oh, you got to do something once a year, DC. But nobody seems to be giving Marvel shit for being like, oh, we're gonna put point 1 on a bunch of our books and call them Phase 2, even though they're not new books at all, and the majority of them have the same creative team. So we're just gonna put a point 1 on there because it's not cool to dick on Marvel right now. But so that's what it's doing. A lot of the books are written by the same guys, some new artists on some of the books and whatnot on a lot of them. But they've made some announcements. A lot of the books are just the same, like I said, either with new artists or kind of previews of storylines. I know for like both for the X-Men Bendis books, one of them, they're both called like The Trial and something else, which you imagine is going to be Jean Grey on trial, is what you would think after all this shit's over with, and she seems to be the one who's going to get in trouble. But a couple of new books. It looks like they're going to relaunch X Factor with Peter David. That's all you can imagine, since there's one with Peter David called Corporate, and there was an X in the picture, so you can imagine they're going to relaunch X Factor. And it's going to be corporate.
Funny, they just ended it with Peter David, so
exactly.
I guess they're not waiting any time to launch the next volume. Hey, I mean, glad to hear Peter David had a stroke.
Been writing X Factor for billions of years.
Critically acclaimed, and I love the mutants. That's one part of the X-verse I'm not really familiar with, so there's all of that just waiting on me to sink my teeth into. So if he wants to add more to that library of greatness that I still haven't even got to yet, then that makes me a happy camper.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed, but that's the guess at what the book is going to be. Another not guaranteed, but what everybody's guessing and what looks to be a pretty good educated guess is that Dan Slott, Mike Allred, they're doing a book together, and the preview for it just simply said rad, and it's in silver. So if you put 2 and 2 together, it would seem like they're going to be doing a book about the Silver Surfer. I mean, he'd been absent for a while from Marvel, basically since I've been reading comics, and he's been popping in here and there lately, most recently in a book in Daredevil. So I'm not a huge Dan Slott fan. I think Mike Allred drawing Silver Surfer, that sounds magical.
Yeah, that is really exciting. I'm not a huge Dan Slott fan either. I mean, I don't hate him, but I just don't love him. I'm kind of just whatever on him.
It's possible I would check that book out, but it's not. If it was somebody not him writing it, I mean, really, I mean, I guess I don't think Dan Slott's bad, but he is one of the few people that they could have announced that I'm like, oh, well, I probably won't get that.
Right.
So I guess I don't really like
There's
him
a handful
much.
of like 10 guys that they could have put on it.
There's a Marvel staff of writers that runs 15 deep where maybe him and maybe Cullen Bunn, I wouldn't get it. Only because I've barely read anything by him and he's got a silly name. So I just don't have any track record on him. No offense to him. He's probably great too. But yeah, almost anybody else that currently writes for them that we get books by, I would. But hey, it might be awesome. Who knows? But cool, they're going to have a Silver Surfer book. And then a book that I probably will get, just due to the fact that I dropped FF and Fantastic Four and FF. I thought the She-Hulk was awesome. So she's getting her own book. It's going to be written by Charlie Soule.
Oh, cool.
Who's been heating it up with DC. Apparently, that dude can write 90 books at a time because he's about to have 3 ongoings at DC, picking this up at Marvel. Jesus. He's got an indie book that starts next month. He's writing a lot. Not to mention I read something on him. He fucking is like a part owner and practices law full time in New York. So apparently, almost everyone's just lazy pieces of shit because he can write 5 comics and be a partner at a law firm at the same time. That prick. But so what the fuck, man?
He must be able to afford great drugs. That's the only thing.
Yeah, no shit. That's probably it. He probably takes great drugs that keeps him up all night and hallucinating, so he can be like, oh, what am I gonna do with Swamp Thing? But he probably doesn't talk like that at all. That's the way that Dan Slott talks a little, actually. But yeah, he's gonna be doing it. And then Javier Pulido, don't know him. He's probably just one of the random guys, they just go down to South America, and then they just randomly trap someone off the street, like throw them in a bus, and bring them to Marvel, and they're like, "You can draw, can't you?" And they're like, "No." And they're like, "We'll learn," and they just can.
Where do they find like 8 million just fantastic Latino artists? Like every Marvel cover, you like. I mean, the artist name is Latino. There's some great ones, Like,
Yeah,
there's some great ones. I mean,
they're
they're of the best that
yeah,
Marvel
exactly.
has actually.
Exactly. I think I heard somebody make a joke about it. They said that's basically what they do now. They said back in the day it was like going to the Philippines. They just kept like finding guys that could draw. And now apparently, yeah. But that's just another one of those guys I'm sure can draw amazingly. But he's gonna be drawing She-Hulk. Charles Soule's gonna be writing her. Also, she's a lawyer. He's a lawyer, so that makes sense that he could probably have some great stories with her. So I really liked her in FF. So I think I'll probably give that book a try because it just seems crazy enough to be good. And I have found the things I like the most at Marvel are like the individual character books I've got. I really love Daredevil, really love Hawkeye. So, can't say for everything. I mean, I started getting Iron Man and hated it, so I can't say that about them all, but I'll probably get that. But yeah, that's some of the announcements. A lot of the other books, they've got other things. Some of them, the titles may even be changing. I mean, I saw that one of the Avengers books, I guess just regular Avengers, maybe adding like the word Global Avengers to the title or something weird they said. I don't know. Some reason to relaunch the same story to number one. But anyways, that's cool. Some new books coming, which also can make you think that probably going to be some books that are going to be ending that people aren't going to be happy about. Makes you think with Allred leaving that FF is probably gone because I don't see.
You got to think what's selling the shit shark, Like,
yeah, I mean Captain Marvel isn't selling, even though I like it. They haven't officially canceled it yet, but it seems canceled because there's no solicitations for it for the next month or so. So, but when good books get canceled, new good books usually pop up. So, at least there's that. Now we're not going back to the long box because we have almost enough pulls to fill one this week. So we'll jump into those. We got a lot. I guess we can start out with some Villains Month.
That's yes. We'll brief you with Villains Month first. I had 4. What about you?
Well, I had a bunch from this week, and then I had some ones from the past couple weeks that I went out and grabbed. So we'll start up with those. Let's see. I'll start out with non-Batman stuff because I got a lot of Batman stuff. Secret Society #1, which was in Justice League 23.4. It was scripted by Johns and then written by Sterling Gates, and I liked it pretty well. It's basically the story of how the Secret Society got to Earth. It's basically a direct prequel to Forever Evil #1.
Okay.
It's all about Alfred from their Earth, from what is the Earth 3?
Yes, Earth 3 is where
it's Earth 3 Alfred, and it's mostly just about the Owlman, and you get to find out about him, all about him, and the fact he's just like a badass evil Batman. Fucking Dick Grayson is the Talon. You find that out there. So they've got like a whole different history. All the same players, but all doing different stuff. The Joker, it's a Joker story too. So it's there.
Well, yeah, Joker and Lex Luthor are the baby faces in the old continuity in that realm. Does that continue?
They don't really tell you. I mean, like the cops are also out to get the Joker too, but he, based on internal monologue, which the story is told through their Alfred, he's basically the Joker like acts like he's crazy, but he doesn't think he is. Like he just is he's just a really smart guy that tries to get under the skin of Owlman because he knows Owlman's evil. But the cops are also against the Joker, so I don't know. That maybe they might expand on that later. But Owlman is bad, so you could possibly infer that means the Joker there must be good. But it's all that. It's all prequel. It leads directly into them having to leave Earth 3. So it's pretty badass. I liked it. It's pretty good. On to really, really, really great. 2 really great ones. This has really sold me that I'm for sure going to have to pick Action Comics back up starting, not this month, but next. This month is the end of the current storyline, the the final Lobdell.
Last of the Lobdell.
It's the last Lobdell owns the Superman universe month. And the next month, Greg Pak's picking it back up, and he wrote 2 of the books out of this week, and I liked them both. They were among my favorite, maybe even my favorite Villains Month book would be this Action Comics 23.2 Zod #1. It's really badass. It's all about Zod on Krypton, and it's just all about his story, and it shows him as a kid, why he becomes a badass. Shows him, there's a whole lot of him interacting with Jor-El as youngsters, as teenagers. Kind of shows his rise up through the ranks, everything. Ends with them getting banished to the Phantom Zone, so it's pretty badass. It's a really good Zod story. And then piggybacking on that would be Doomsday, a book that's really not about Doomsday. It's kind of, but they really tell it in a really awesome way. It's Batman Superman #1, Batman Superman #3.1. And it's not from the point of view of Doomsday, which is probably good, because he's just kind of a crazy monster.
I was about to say, what? The Doomsday internal monologue. Kill Superman, roar!
But yeah, it's told through the eyes of Kara on Krypton. You find out that Doomsday in their universe is just like a fairy tale. It's, she gets told a scary story about Doomsday and about him coming to kill Krypton and, take over the universe. And there's a fairy tale about him, about there being a hero that Doomsday kills, and, everyone's sad and all this, which is basically, the fairy tale is just about Superman and the old continuity. But, but she's getting told the whole story. And then it's in the same universe, written by Pak again, so it's on the same Krypton universe as the Zod book was, because she's living there, and I guess like within the same establishment as her cousins and uncle and everything. So the door to the Phantom Zone is by her room. So Zod is talking to her like through the door of her room, saying that eventually he's going to come back and get everyone, and that story, that story's true, and that she needs to let him out so that, Zod can come stop it and all this. So it all ties together.
Oh, awesome.
It's pretty badass. It makes me wish that Greg Pak could just write a Krypton book, a before Superman Krypton book, which, one of those, man, that might have legs. Between how badass they made Krypton and Man of Steel, which might have been the best part of that movie overall, was just the mythology they gave Krypton and the look, and how even though everything was so cool, that you've read before, like you really felt like, oh shit, like, I know what Krypton, completely is now. And they really do follow that up on both these issues. So they're both cool stories, and really like that a lot. So even though, I've been liking Batman Superman, the artwork is like such that sometimes I'm a little confused by it. But Pak's writing is really great. So both of these were so good that I think that's definitely going to sell me on getting some Action Comics going forward. Then to the Batman books. A couple of these catch up on, some of them from a couple weeks ago. Two-Face, Batman and Robin 23.1. I read good things about it, liked it a lot, so I grabbed it. It was good. It was basically, this one is actually set in the current continuity. It's Two-Face as
Harvey.
Yes, well, it's just, it's Two-Face as he is now, as the Secret Society, has shown up, and as, or the Secret Society and the evil dudes.
The
Crime Syndicate.
Yes, there you
go. Yeah, they've shown up, and Harvey gets an invite to join the Secret Society, and of course that's flipped a coin to see if he's going to join the Secret Society or if he's going to fuck things up, and then, by the end of it, you kind of get an answer, but he does a lot of fucking things up in the meantime while he's trying to figure it out. Holds some court, which is pretty badass. Decides, he's taking back over the Gotham courthouse, and he's going to hear all the cases, and, doing the coin flip to whether giving them the, basically the same scene from the Dark
Knight
Rises,
Rises, which
actually,
is also in a Batman animated series episode, and Joker is the judge. But...
Yeah, he's just doing flips the coin. If, heads, they get life in prison, tails, they shoot someone in the head, and so It's pretty good. I liked it. Really awesome is the Court of Owls, Batman and Robin 23.2. It's really great. It's also set, you get a combination of modern times and past times. It's set within the new universe where Gotham City's fallen and is being looted, and Batman's out there to save it. So the court, a couple of members of the court, have to figure out what they're going to do to survive. So basically, the story is they're basically telling you the history of the court, like different times where they've kind of been in trouble and what they've done to get out of it, going back to the early days of Gotham. It's a father and a daughter telling his daughter as they go, and then finally they dig through town and get to a spot where it's one of their oldest hideouts in Gotham. So it's really cool. It's really good. It's really expanding on the Court of Owls. I've been reading the Talon. I mean, I see people like it. It gets pretty decent reviews and stuff. I kind of want to read it, but getting more mythos in the Court of Owls is pretty badass.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
And then some other two books. Bane, which was in Batman 23.4, number one. It's okay. It's basically, I mean, I don't know. What more can you know about Bane? I mean, really not a lot. I mean, I guess in the new continuity they haven't told a lot, but getting ready for the Dark Knight Rises, I think anybody that reads comics knows most everything about him. It's some standard Bane stuff where he tells people that, you know, they working for him, and then he kills them, and it's like, you died honorably, even though I just decided to kill you for no reason. Um, and it's almost just strictly a prequel to try to get you to buy Arkham the Arkham War book, because it's Bane gathering his troops to go in to like try to take over Arkham. And at the end of it, it actually, a lot of the books I got this week didn't give you a story continued in, as you know some of them have, but this one was. It was story continued in, you know, the battle, whatever I think it's called, Arkham War #1. So it was almost prequel with that. It was okay, but it was just mostly just to set that up. And then Joker's Daughter #1, the most sought after of the Villains Month, going for the crazy amount of money of up to $100 the week before it came out. The most limited, as I've read a lot of the reports, it was the one that was the most allocated, so people got the least amount of copies of it. And I have to say, if you couldn't get it from the comic shop and decided to go in the secondary market to get this book, you might cut your dick off. Because it's one of the worst comics. It's one of the worst comics I've ever read. I mean, I've only been reading comics. I mean, I don't remember what I read as a kid. I've only been reading comics for going on 2 years now, so it's not like I've been reading for 50 years. So there's much worse comics. And I am one that I don't just read anything for the fuck of it, so I have avoided things that I knew were shitty just because I don't want to waste my time. But damn it, it's really bad. It's just really awful. And you know who the writer is? Take a guess who the writer is.
Scott Lobdell?
It is not. It is Scott Lobdell's sister in DC Hatred and Cynthia, unfortunately. Who, listen, all I've ever read by her is some Catwoman that I thought wasn't very good, but I don't hate on her. I haven't read enough of her to have like a big opinion, but this is to be continued in the Catwoman book that everyone currently hates, so it makes sense, but basically the story just doesn't make any sense, man. I mean, I like the art. I think it looks cool. It's all really weird. It's not actually spoilers. I feel as if I can't help but spoil a little bit of it because of the fact that, to tell you how shitty it is, it's not really the Joker's daughter. It's some depressed chick who happened to harm herself. She was going to cut herself, so she cut her face up a little bit. Kind of made her look a little Joker-like, you know, had nothing to do with the Joker, just she was whatever. So she decides to come to Gotham City because she's heard that it's a good place for freaks, and heard underground in Gotham City is the best place. So she goes underground, and I guess it floated from the water in the Batcave all the way down to these tunnels, but she just finds the Joker's face in the water. Whatever, I guess he lost it when he got his ass kicked at the end of Death of the Family.
Right.
Fine, I'll go with you on there. But she gets it and puts it on her face. Doesn't even know she's wearing like the face. She just thinks that's her face. She's just like, oh look, there's a mask. Oh, it looks like, at first she thinks it's just a reflection of her face in the water. And then she's like, oh no, it's just a mask. Oh, this kind of feels pretty good. And then the people living underground see her and they think it's the Joker. despite the fact that she's a girl and has girl hair and boobs, the people in this little place are like, "Oh, it's the Joker. You're back and you're a girl now. We worship you." And so, basically, there's all these people living. It's ridiculous. There's all these people living underground, and it's basically they're living old school '50s style where the guys are all sitting around. There's a guy in charge.
The Morlocks.
There's a guy in charge who looks like a poor man's Aquaman, and that's like his gimmick. He's has a trident, I guess, that he found, or maybe it's just not a trident. You know, it's just a fucking just looks like one. And he's wearing a vest made of pennies that looks like a cheap version of Aquaman's like suit. And he's like level headed and in charge and just kind of a hippie. And so of course Joker's daughter is mad at and when she sees him. It's like, why are all the women? I see all the women cooking and the guys are just sitting around. Why is that this way here? And then he's just like, you know, it's a really terrible attempt at some social commentary, and even seeing it from both sides. Like she's just like, and then he's just like, you know, he's like, well, when we first came down here, we had to fight and we had to burrow through the tunnels to create our civilization. So the men were more important. It's like they had to keep everyone alive. So I had to kind of let them be in charge because that's the way it is. Okay, fine. I'll go with you. That's why the world was the way it was. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Trying to Jones that into this this terrible issue of comics, trying to get a little bit of political message. I'll buy that. I agree with that. But then, and then she's like, well, that's not how it is now. And he's like, let's put it to a vote. And she's like, let's not. So somehow she grabs his trident thing and gets it hot, puts over some coals, and hits him in the mouth, and starts hitting everybody in the mouth with it, and it gives them all Joker smiles. So now they all have Joker smiles, and she's in charge.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's the worst.
It's horrible.
It's the worst, man. I mean, it's just a dumb story. The character just isn't likable at all because she's just, like, her point of view is just kind of psychotic, which I guess that's fine. And then like halfway through you're like, oh man, this is like a really terrible attempt at like some commentary on like the world and on feminism and all this stuff, and it's just so hacky and so awful. It really probably is the worst comic we've ever read, and it started going down. It's gone down to about $30, and just for the fact to keep my collection alive, I'll keep it. If this thing was still selling for $100, I wouldn't have brought it over here for Dan to borrow. I would have just sold it because, god damn it, I can't, like, this is the worst, this is like the worst I've ever seen, the worst mismatch on, this is the most valuable book out of Villains Month, and it's by far the worst one I read. So there you go. So Joker's Daughter, check it out, because now you just have to, because get the 2D copy that costs you $3, because you have to see this train wreck so that you can laugh with me.
Well, speaking of stinking, steaming turds, I have Eclipso #1.
Man, and you got shorted last week. Had you known, you'd been done a favor.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to like it. I mean, I just say that. I was not familiar enough with that character to give two shits, but so I wasn't missing it, I'll say that. And now that I read it, I definitely know I wasn't missing it. It wasn't the worst comic I ever read, but...
No, trust me. It's going to seem like fucking just a regular old issue of Daredevil compared to this Joker's Daughter.
Like, if it's like a single issue of like a horror story from Tales from the Crypt, I'd be fine with it. But as a thing to launch a new villain into DC, I wasn't too hot with it. It's about a dude named Gordan Jacobs whose life is shitty, and he finds this gemstone and a demon lives in it, and the demon convinces him to let him out, and the demon possesses him, and he makes him Eclipso, like this monster super villain type thing. And
it's supposed to eclipse a monster backyard wrestler.
He can fucking kill people. And that's pretty much it. He gets his revenge and it ends, and it's, okay, cool, whatever.
Nice.
This wasn't particularly well written. It wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst comic I ever read. It was bad. And then on to Sinestro #1 from Villains Month. We've been talking about Green Lantern in the past weeks. If you followed the show, you know that Sinestro has actually been written out of the New 52 continuity, and they pretty much ended his story. So I was interested to see him even in the Villains Month parlay. What we have here is just it's essentially a flashback story told by Lyssa Drac, the Keeper of Histories from the Book of Parallax, which, if you remember how Green Lantern ended, Sinestro ended up being the Keeper of Histories for the Green Lantern Corps, which is a job that locks you away in solace for eternity. But what she's trying to do is figure out what happened to Sinestro. And so, essentially, she just tells his whole origin, like from the very beginning, how he found his lantern ring, and how he left the fucking guy to die after he got his ring. He's like, oh, thanks. Now you got the ring, you can help save my life. And he's like, no, you weren't good enough. See ya. Then he just flies off. So that was kind of cool. I mean, it just showed, how ruthless he was, even as a good guy and a guy who...
The page layouts are a little bit different. They're kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how it was set up. It was alright. I guess because of the Villains Month, so many of them spinning into other things, this one, it just kind of didn't really go anywhere because it didn't have anywhere to go, but they did what they could with it, certainly, and...
I liked it. There's a good balance. I mean, I know I saw a lot of the reviews I read online, people complained when the books didn't tie into the current stories, but I mean, I think, Villains Month, much like the Zero Year, it gives an opportunity. You can tie into the stories, or if you just want to just do a one-shot story, it's a good place to put it too. As long as it's good, I don't care.
Yeah, essentially, it ends with them leaving the thread that they may pull him out of his exile and
they may need him.
Lead the Yellow Lanterns once more, but, it doesn't lead. It says the end for now, and then it ends. So that's pretty much that. Black Adam #1. It's pretty cool. I enjoyed the history of Black Adam in particular that they showed. It's really all about Kandak, his home country, and you see where really the legend of Black Adam came from. And then you flash forward to modern day and you see these kids that are being tortured by these warlords and terrorists. It's essentially like a modern Middle Eastern country now, and they're oppressed and they're about to die, and they're essentially saying Black Adam's going to save them, Black Adam's going to save them. And they go to the spot where his ashes were dumped, where Billy Batson dumped his ashes, and one of the Kandakian family gets killed. He gets shot right in the middle of saying Shazam, and his sister, who was the skeptic the whole time and told him, not to believe in this hocus pocus, she's the one that yells Shazam, and Black Adam comes back to life and fucking murders the shit out of the warlords. So that was pretty cool, yeah. And so, Black Adam is totally back in continuity after being dead for about a month.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got magical characters. There's pretty much an out.
Yeah.
Always, like an easy one.
You can buy a little bit more that they're alive.
And then, really, the sleeper of all of Villains Month, and one of my absolute favorite issues that I've read the entire time, Ocean Master #1. Written by Jeff Johns and Tony Bedard, and plotted by Jeff Johns, script by Tony Bedard. And the art by this one, I believe, is Paul Pelletier. No, I'm sorry, it's a different artist. Geraldo Borges, another great, over at DC, another great Latino artist. This all is like straight ties into the War of Atlantis stuff. And it's fantastic. Like, it's another hidden piece to that, and it's got some modern stuff. So you see, essentially, what Ocean Master, or Orm, the brother of Aquaman, was up to before they attacked the surface world in the Atlantean War, and then you go to the present day, and he's in prison being interrogated. As we know, he's set to go on trial for these massive war crimes and possibly be put to death. Well, while he's meeting with his lawyers is when the crime syndicate attacks the prison, and so his lawyers get killed, and he's like, alright, well, see ya. And he bails, but he's a man of honor. He's the king of Atlantis. He really truly believes this. He truly believes he's doing the right thing. He's definitely one of those villains. He's the brother of Aquaman. So he finds this dead security guard, and earlier in the book, the security guard was one of the only people in the prison that was nice to him. And so he finds this guy, and he's dying. He's like in the explosion, and he's got shit on top of him. And Orm's like, oh, he asks him which way to the sea, and he tells him, and he's like, of course, you're one of the only ones to show me kindness. I will not leave you to suffer. And he extends his hand to smother the guy.
Nice.
He's like, thanks for your kindness. I am pleased I can return it.
Yes. Thanks for your kindness, Christopher Molsanti.
Yeah, it definitely went out Christopher Moltisanti style. There's a nice comment like where he's walking 22 miles to the shore, and he bitches about how walking is stupid.
Nice.
And so, but essentially, not to give all the twists and turns away, there's opportunities for heroic things for him to do, but he doesn't care for humans either. He's really only concerned with protecting the Atlanteans. So you leave with this really almost dark humor of him haphazardly helping humans from inmates running amok because he just happens to stumble upon them and they disrespect him, not because he's trying to save the humans. And then you also, you essentially run into a deal at the end where you see he's got to make a decision, and is he truly an Atlantean savage? Does he have a heart? Is he capable of heroics? And what's that going to mean for the crime syndicate? But I was expecting to have a bunch of jokes prepared about this book because it's the fucking Ocean Master. I mean, there was credible threat in the Atlantean War. I mean, they really built him up, but still, it's fucking Ocean Master. I thought they were pretty much done with him after that. But apparently not, because they just wrote the shit out of him and made him look strong coming into this next wave of stuff.
Cool. They made him Loki.
Yeah, very much. Taking a cue from Loki. Okay, well, you got more.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the end of Villains Month, folks. Now on to the regularly scheduled polls.
Yeah, I'll try to shoot through a few of these real quick. This is sum up Villains Month. I think we'd probably both agree. We're pumped for it. It had its hits. It had its misses, much like Zero Year. It was a good time, but we'll be very much happy for our regularly scheduled books next month.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the final thought on that, I would agree. I'd say I liked more of them than I didn't. There were certainly some stinkers, but it was a cool time. It was a good gimmick. It was hard on the wallet. And I might have better selected the books. And whatever gimmick they do next year, I am going to better select the books. Just not to get the things that I'm getting just because they're tied into what I'm reading. Because I'm hoping that I get this so I don't miss something that's coming up in a current arc, But I could have done without Eclipse.
Probably chose a little bit more. I mean, some of the ones I had to go back and buy, if I picked more based on the writers than the characters, it would have probably, had less misses. But yeah, on to other books that will continue. We got The Wake, number 4 out of 10. Scott Snyder. If you thought shit was bad for their little crew, if it looked like they're about to get eat by fucking monsters from the ocean. Actually, it just looks like they're being attacked by monsters from the trench from Aquaman, as it turns out. But
who were all based on Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's circular.
Yeah, but yeah, things get worse. So they get fucked up really bad, and then, there's 6 more issues, so obviously they don't all die, they get out of it, but some of them don't, and a lot of them get fucked up really bad. So it's really good. Another good issue of The Wake, still 6 more to go. I don't know what kind of twists and turns the story is going to take, but it just, much like the book's been, after issue 2, it's like, well, issue 3 seems like it could just be over. And this one is like issue 4 seems like it could be over. I'm interested to see how he's going to stretch her out and what crazy stuff's going to happen. Because you have confidence in Snyder. It's not like he's had a 5-issue story that he stretched out to 10 to make money. You're just like, he's going to do something crazy coming up. But yeah, then on to Image. Got five Image books this week.
It's got to be a record.
It's Indytastic, yes. Started out, one I picked up just for the hell of it because it was a new number 1 and I thought it might be cool. Written by Curtis J. Weeb, nice name. A book called Rat Queens, which is about a crew of chicks. It's basically set in. I've never played this game before, but what people describe as like almost a Dungeons and Dragons esque universe. Each one of like the different people, like they all have like their own little crew. This one, the Rat Queens, the main crew that the book about is about some chicks that kick people's asses and they get into lots of fights and stuff. They apparently are known around town. They're in trouble around town because they're constantly getting into bar fights and everything. It's set in kind of a mythological world, and it's pretty cool. They're going after all these things. There's all sorts of different groups. There's a stupid emo group. There's a group called the Four Daves, which I'm very happy about. Just four guys named Dave. Obsidian Darkness is the name of the emo group, so that's pretty cool. I guess the supposed pretty people are called the Peaches, and then so on and so forth. The brother ponies. That's also kind of funny. They all have ponytails and they're big muscle dudes. It's pretty good. It's really vulgar. There's poop and dick and words like that used throughout it. So
Poop and dick.
yeah, it's not together, maybe together. I don't remember, but yeah, it was pretty fun. Like I'll probably give it a chance and check it out. It's good humor. The story is kind of cool. Like I said, it's not. I mean, I like nerdy stuff. Like, I like Lord of the Rings and stuff, but there's probably more. If you play D&D and stuff, apparently there's more of it that you would even get than I do, and I still thought it was pretty cool. It was entertaining, so liked it a lot.
Very cool.
On to the other new book of the week, the highly anticipated Match Fraction Sex Criminals. There's really not. I was gonna say I won't give you anything away. There's really not much to give away from the first issue that you just don't know from the preview. Basically, there's a chick and a dude that when they have sex with each other, the world stops. And of course, because it's a comic, what do they do with this power? They use it to rob banks. So they do it, and then get ready to rob a bank. And so this one's it's really just their backstory. It's just all about the girl and about how she learned, that this is what happened. It's really good. It's really well written by Fraction. There's lots of funny stuff in it. It's just all her backstory on when she's a kid and the first time that, she jacked off and she just thought that the world stopped for everybody. I mean, it's a good play on, there's just over and over the play on the fact that, when you do it, it's like the best thing ever. And then when it's over, you're just like, oh shit, it's back to the world. But that doesn't happen for her. When she does it, everything just stops. She can do whatever she wants. So, she robs banks. So it's pretty cool. It's really good. It's a big oversized issue. The first one is. Lots of story in there. It's just all kind of setting the table for what the characters are about and everything. And I liked it a lot. Another Image hit. Another great Fraction book. At least to give me that. Was dropping off the FF family. It's good. He's got some more good shit out. I'll quickly go through Revival number 14. You kind of figure out what the ghosts are in this one, so that's badass. Find out what they do, so won't spoil it, but it's pretty cool. Fatale is back. Fatale number 17. It's really great. Just old Brubaker and Sean Phillips just making a really awesome comic every month for like their whole lives. It moves the story on just a little bit. You get a little backstory on some of the people that are searching Joe out, and then she makes a dude kill himself, so that's cool. But lots of stuff happens in that issue, so it's great. Then on to Saga, number 14. These are like all my favorite indie books all in 1 month. If this is going to happen, or 1 week, if this is going to happen every month, then I'm going to have to declare 4th week of the month Indie Week, because, Jesus. But chapter 14, get to find out what's going on. I figured last issue I had to go back and reread the last couple because there was such a break in between issues 12 and 13 that I thought we'd gone back in time for issue 13, but I wasn't sure. Maybe, it was just something else. But yeah. So basically, if you remember at the end of issue 12, if you've been reading, all of our heroes, they track down this author of a book that had inspired them to be rebels, and they're hiding out in his house. And basically, this is another just what led up to that. You get to see them meeting him and going to his house, and you get to find out like what's going on with all the bounty hunters and everything, what they're doing. So I'm guessing that the end of this arc will probably just take it back to the same point in time that the second arc ended. We just get to see what happened in between. So it's really good again. There's some really cool character moments in here between a couple of the bounty hunters. So it's real good. It's always really good. So this would be my review every week of Saga. You just be like, it's good. It's
we
good.
just loop that.
It's good. It's good. Also, I don't want to spoil too much if you don't read it. So a lot of times I don't like to give you particular plot points.
Yeah, because it's so crazy.
And
it's not
on
like
a lot of these image books, man. Like if you're not reading Fatale, like it doesn't mean much to you if I tell you what happened without you reading the other ones. The same with Saga. Same with Revival, especially. It just you need to be reading them. So, and then my last book of the week, which Dan hasn't read, so I won't spoil, is Wolverine the X-Men number 36. Pretty crazy, there's been 36 of these mofos already.
next Battle of the Atoms. Sweet.
Battle of the Atom number 5, by good old Jason Aaron. Mini spoiler, they spend the majority of the issue still arguing about what to do about the old X-Men. Not a spoiler, because you saw how the other one, both the Jean Greys fight each other. Not to be spoiled, something finally happens, so you have that to look forward to. The argument goes on for most of the book, but it finally kind of ends after 3.5 issues now. So it's midway through issue 2 of just everybody standing around arguing about what needs to be done. Something finally happens, and you're left with a huge question going into the next one, which makes me real pumped for this week. There's a real mystery as to what will happen in part 6. So
all new is this week.
Next week will be all new, yes, and then we'll be back to X in the City, and then Battle of the Atom number 2, part 8, whatever they're gonna call it. But that's it for me.
All right, well,
That was my one-man apocalypse is over.
One Man Apocalypse 2013 continues. No, I didn't have that many, but I'll stay in the Marvel realm. The rest of mine were Marvel, so we had a nice sectionalizing of the titles this week here on the program.
Yeah, 67 issues in. It's nice that we decided to organize something.
Hey, yeah, whatever. Very quickly, just a lot of good stuff for Marvel. Really, all of my Marvel books hit home runs. Even Avengers number 20. Really, been tying into Infinity, but been really focusing on what happened to the Carol Danvers team. And so we see more of that here. We see really Ex Nihilo, who has he's been there, he hasn't really done much. Stand up and fucking take control of the builders, or not the builders, but the gardeners, who are responsible, like they're in with the builders in this whole universal destruction thing. You actually see Ex Nihilo rally them to turn on the builders. So the builders are fucking on the run here. They're still not out of the woods as far as Thanos goes, but you do get to go back to the main team here and find out what's going on with them. And Cap's got a crazy plan. They're going to surrender, even though they've just sent these guys on the run. What's he got going on? You never know, but Cap always has a good plan.
So Cap says, I give them up.
It was a really badass issue. Like it's been kind of plodding along in the tie-ins, and it hadn't been bad, but this one really, like,
I know it had been on your possible to drop list, man. That'll give it a little,
maybe
give it a little bit of steam to keep on.
Maybe I will say, like, the Infinity tie-ins are still continuing the story they started in the first issue, so
that's cool.
I mean, it's been a bumpy road at times, but maybe as a whole it'll be one great thing. I can only hope so. So, moving on to Deadpool number 17, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Part 3. Deadpool reunites with Cap and Wolverine in North Korea to try and free the hideous North Korean X-Men clones that these jackasses over here have tried to make.
Using Deadpool toes and whatnot.
Yes. You see Deadpool have, like, one of the most real, like, serious moments in the history of his character in this issue, which is crazy. in between dick and fart jokes. It's not like they're trying to fucking cut his nuts off or nothing, but just like because this is the result of so many years of different people fucking with him. He talks about how he's a clown, and basically he's never fucking doing it again, and he has like a real come to Jesus moment with himself. Not that he's gonna stop clowning around, but that he's not gonna let other people fucking make him a clown. And then we find out that there's something else going on with this Killebrew guy and with the fucking with Butler, the guy who's been fucking with Deadpool the whole time from the Weapon X program. Looks like that they're about to give the North Korean dictator an endless supply of mutant powers.
Dead poos?
Never a good idea, so they're going to have to cut that off. Brian Posehn, Jerry Duggan still bringing the comedy and like a moment of real seriousness there as well. And then Declan Shalvey's really been killing it on the art, this second arc.
Nice.
So, good book. Uncanny Avengers, number 12. Kiss Kiss Kang Kang was the name of this particular issue. You get a little bit of backstory on the Apocalypse twins and how the female actually got blinded. Pretty fucked up, and it's Kang's fault.
You can imagine with a Remender writ book.
Come to find out that lots of things are Kang's fault, and that the Apocalypse twins, they really, he's kind of baby-facing them a little bit now, which is weird. They're still down for this mutant rapture, and they still got Wanda buying it. So we're going to see where that goes. That ought to be interesting. Even more interactions with the Wasp, who's recently joined the team, but her and Havoc look like some sparks might be starting to fly here between them, so that's interesting. Some little romantic tension that they haven't really had much of in this book. And a hilarious joke she makes about her and Hank Pym's sex life in the midst of all of that, involving the Hellfire Club. Nice. And then Banshee shows up and beats the dog shit out of Cap, but Havoc makes a save. Wonder Man and Wanda growing closer. Mutant Rapture is rapidly approaching, and this book just don't stop. Keeps you hooked. Dialogue's probably the best in all of Marvel, I think. I'd say it's up there with Mark Waid's stuff and Daredevil. I'd say it's the best dialogue. It's just like that would go on a television show, a movie. It's fantastically good. If you're not reading Uncanny Avengers, I don't know what your problem is. You must not like superhero comics, and that's cool. But if you do, you got no excuse. Guardians of the Galaxy, number 6. Big Angela on the cover.
Not Neil Gaiman writing it again.
Oh, what do you know? It isn't.
No, I think they just messed up. He's not writing shit. He's just like, here, you can use Angela.
Neil Gaiman's character appearing in our books.
Yeah.
Said that. Well, we saw Gamora and Angela start a fight in the last issue, and it's still going on this issue, and the Watcher has shown up, which, if you know Marvel history, is a terrible fucking sign, because the Watcher is only there to record history-altering events. He can never interfere. But
sometimes, though, it just turns out that I wonder if the Watcher shows up once a year when it's McRib time.
Maybe.
It's the Watcher. Is some shit gonna happen? No, it's a McRib.
He's leaving with his McRib. The universe is safe. Also continuing from the previous issue, the verbal joust between Peter Quill and Thanos. Still going back and forth. It leads to blows. We'll just leave it at that. Angela and Gamora are still beating the ever-loving teetotal piss out of each other. That just continues. Finally, the rest of the team comes in. They all try to fight Angela. She still kicks their ass. Eventually, Peter Quill coming in for the last-minute save after his fight with Thanos takes her down. Doesn't kill her, but at least incapacitates her, and the Watcher says in so many words, "You guys are fucked."
Nice.
It was a good issue. Bendis is really at home on Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know that I've read a book that plays to his strengths as much as I have this one in quite a while. And then actually, pick of the week, not even on my pull list. This one I picked up because it was a 2-part miniseries. One of my all-time favorite Marvel characters. Wanted to know what he's been doing in the universe lately since the Greg Pak arc closed down.
Nothing.
Well, you find out nothing till now. And actually, I figured, well, surely, because I haven't read it, that like that Punisher Warzone where he fights the Avengers, like Greg Rucka, rather's last thing that he did, would be where he got arrested. But apparently not, because the issue starts out. Frank walks into a cop's office with a DA in a bag, and he's like, "Hey, I'm here to turn myself in." Like, okay, call the cops. What are you like? Why are you here? Call it in. You want to make a confession? And then he goes, "No, I don't think you understand." And he drops his bag open, and the fucking missing DA is in there, and you end up finding out how that happened. And it's a great Frank Castle internal monologue. It's written by Mark Guggenheim, actually, from
Goog
Arrow TV show. And Lionel Yu is the artist. So
nice.
It's fantastic. It was fantastic. I was just so thrilled with this and so thrilled to see what they're going to do. It's a 2-parter, so it's... and he even writes a big thing at the end talking about how, all the Punishers seen the inside of a prison several times, but he's never been put on trial. And that's what this is all about. Frank Castle is finally going to be put on trial for his crimes. You see the first part of the trial. Get a lot of Punisher history here. Skewed from the perspective of, like, if the media was showing you this. So it's like, it's all people only talking about the horrible things the Punisher did because he murdered so many people. Not much light put on his heroic side. And we're left with everything still up in the air. He doesn't get sentenced or anything by the end of it. But the solicit for the next issue has the Punisher standing in a courtroom full of corpses. So I can only imagine what might happen, or it may just be a cool cover. But you gotta check out Trial of the Punisher.
Sweet.
But that's all I got?
That is it. That's all the pulls.
Are you pulled out yet?
There's many pulls. Oh, well, next week won't be... I'm sure it won't be as much news because there can't be 5 more TV shows. Or could there? And won't be as many pulls.
I got 2, so
Green
Lantern and Forever Evil.
I want to say I have 6. I got a few. I've got Detective Comics. I got Green Arrow, Trillium, All New X-Men, Lazarus, my one missing Image fave.
Lazarus.
It's back. Yeah, or Lazarus, as our comic book store wants to write it on the list. And something else. I got 5 or 6, but it'll be a lighter week, but it'll be cool. So if you're avoiding the comic book store because of Villains Month, well, it's over, you jackasses. So go back, get your pulls.